Good morning, afternoon, and evening from wherever you are listening. Welcome to the first ever Breakevens Podcast. My name is Corey, and with me I have Jack.
Hello.
So before we get into everything, just a reminder that this podcast will also be uploaded to YouTube, and our account is at the Breakevens, and you can find us on Twitter at BreakevensPod. Now, to tell you guys a little bit about us and what we will be doing, we are a Supercoach-based podcast where we will dive into teams, players, and stats and give our expert opinion on the world of Supercoach. We do use the term expert very loosely, but we hope to give some insight into our thoughts for those that may be new, looking to improve, or any other experts that want a different opinion, or just listen to two guys talk nonsense for about an hour. So now we'll just quickly talk about us and our Supercoach stories before we get into the nitty gritty. So, as I said at the start, my name is Corey. I'm 27 from Victoria. I follow the mighty, or as of late, not so mighty Pies. I've been playing Supercoach since I think 2009. So about to enter my 13th season. Yes, 13! I play a lot of other fantasy sports, and I'm looking forward to trying new things this season, as we will need to be a little bit more flexible with our teams, as we got new rules, which we'll talk about in a second, and COVID will eventually destroy our squads. So, how about you, Jack?
I've been playing Supercoach since about 2011, 2012. I'm also a Richmond fan, so get around us. We've been good as of late. Maybe not last season, but last few years before that. I've had one Supercoach season where I finished in the top 100. Been nowhere near since that, but that year was a good year, that's for sure.
Nice. So that's a little bit about us. As you can see, 10 plus years each on Supercoach. So hopefully we know what we're talking about.
Not really, but
Yeah, exactly. All right, so I can officially say welcome to the 2022 Supercoach season.
Yes, it just started.
Yes, it was released to all members last night at midnight. Well, the night before at midnight, sorry. And us two, we've been on the team picker since, was it mid-December it came out?
Yeah, around there.
Yep. So we've been changing our teams about 100 billion times over the last month, but for those non-gold members, it is officially out. And the boys over at Supercoach dropped some big bombshells yesterday morning with the new rules and additions to help assist us with what could be the hardest Supercoach season to date. So we'll just quickly go through these additions, Jack, and at the end we'll have a collective talk about what we think, what we like, what we don't like, and how some of this could affect our teams. All right, so the first new one is an extra 5 trades. Usually you get 30 trades, but back when I first started, it was only 20. So an extra 5 trades, so 35. Obviously, I think, and you probably agree, Jack, that's COVID related.
Oh, definitely, yeah. But it helps me a lot, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I always seem to run out of trades towards the end. So.
I was out of trade with about 7 weeks to go. I had a shocking start last year.
Yeah, injuries, eh? So those extra 5 trades, they're actually part of the newest, the next edition, which is trade boosts. So you get 5 trade boosts, I guess, chips, similar to Premier League Fantasy for those that do that, which means in 5 separate rounds, you can do an extra trade if you activate these chips. So usually we get 2 trades per week. If you use the trade boost, you get 3. And at the buys, we usually get 3 trades, but you can get 4. So just again, 5 separate rounds you can use this. they're not add-ons to the 35, they're part of the 35. So if you use a trade boost, you get one away from your 35, if that makes sense. The next one, and this one's 50-50 for the hardcore fans, but it's a rolling DPP status. So that means at times during the season, people who don't have dual that aren't a dual position player, they might get a dual position. Now, I have some inside info, Jack.
Oh, you do?
What I've heard is every 6 rounds, so if we can do some quick math here, round 6, round 12, and round 18.
Yep.
They will be looking to give people DPP. Now,
I have one question on that.
Yes.
Will players lose their dual position status?
Well, I've actually got that as part of my notes. Dual position players cannot lose their DPP status.
That's good, because I was wondering how it would say for like a Cornelio who's a mid forward losing his forward status and just being a midfielder, and he's in your forward line. Like, how would that work?
Yep. So it only affects people that are just stuck into the one line. So a few other things on that is in that 6-week period. So let's say from round 1 to round 6, if let's say, for instance, Scott Pendlebury, because I'm a Collingwood supporter, Pendles, he's been touted to play on the halfback.
I saw that on the news tonight. He's playing differently.
Yeah, so if he plays 35% of time in the back line by round 6, he will be mid defender.
That makes it interesting.
But it's only between round 1 and 6. If he does 34%, from round 7 to 12, he has to do that 35 again. Okay, and Champion Data take that from centre bounces and stoppages. They take note of where everyone is, and that will ultimately give them a rough idea, and that's how it all work out. The next one is you can edit trades after lockout now. There was nothing worse over the last few years. You trade someone in, they're fine, and last second they play on a Sunday, last second gone out, and you've just traded them in. Now, before that game has started, you can reverse that trade, and you can bring in someone else.
Obviously, it can't be someone who's played.
Yes, so they can't have already played or are during a game. But also has to fit into the budget. So you can't trade out a rookie for Jack Mccrae. It has to be in budget and not already locked. And lastly, the main one for Supercoach Gold members. If you do have Supercoach Gold, you can now see the top VC percentages for each round. So they'll collect data and be like 25% of people have put Jack Mccrae as VC, or 44% have put Max Score. So it gives you nice insight on what everyone else is doing.
So you can either follow the crowd or go differently.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you can also use something which I think is ridiculous, a trade assist. And what that is if you're stuck and you're not sure, you click the trade assist button, and Supercoach goes, the most traded in player this week is Clayton Oliver. So you should put him in. And then it just happens, apparently.
Much respect.
But obviously, you can confirm that trade, or if you go, I don't think, Clayton Oliver's time on ground has gone down a little bit. I don't want him, right? And I don't know if it has like a list or anything like that, but that's a new feature, and I think it's stupid. So, Jack, any Any thoughts on those?
Yeah, so coming in, I had 2 questions, which you pretty much answered them both. The +5 trade, so that's just with the boost,
Yep.
you get 30, and then the 5 boost ones, yeah. Yeah, no, that's pretty much all I had, really. I wasn't too
Well,
sure.
I'm still interested in the DPP. Okay, so at this point of time, Jack, I'm going to read you a few names here.
Okay.
Patrick Dangerfield, Scott Pendlebury,
Yep.
Nathan Fife, Max Thorne, Rowan Marshall. Are any of those players in your team right now?
Who was the third one you said?
Dangerfield, Bont, Fife.
Bond. No, I've got none of them.
Okay, why?
I just think I've got better players.
Yeah, and they're midfield only. Yeah, we saw last year.
But yeah, except for Gorn, which is a ruck only. Yeah, and
Yeah.
Marshall.
Yeah, so these players by round 6 could all be mid forwards and ruck forwards. You could have Max Gorn in the forward line.
Oh yeah, because Luke Jackson.
Yeah, you can have all these players in the forward line, which means the forward line's stacked. Really?
Oh yeah.
But, over the last few years, the forward line, the averages have been 90 plus. Is like top 15 forwards. You bring those guys in.
It's 110 at least.
It's 110, which means what happens to the likes of Butters, Heedy, the Goey if he doesn't go crazy? These guys who we thought were locks at a 95 average, suddenly they don't seem like locks.
And with Pendlebury as well, if he goes to the back line, that's another. That just makes you think: do you want him in your back line?
Yeah, exactly. So you got him going back. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens with that and how that changes people's strategy. I know today I made a few changes because of that.
Oh really?
Yeah, I've got 2 mid prices in the forward line just because I bring those guys in, and I have Horn Francis in my midfield. He is going to play a good chunk up forward. I can switch him to the forward line.
Yeah.
I can switch Dick Dacos to the back line. It's just so much flexibility there.
But he's also a question with that. Would you risk starting one of them thinking, oh, they're a good chance of getting a dual position, so let's just use Dangerfield as example. You put him in to start with as a midfielder, like, oh yeah, I'll be able to switch him in the forward line. But then what happens if that plan fails and he only plays 30% and he doesn't get the dual position? So it's like, do you want to risk it, or do you want to wait and then switch him and then trade out someone to make him fit?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, and that's what I've seen a lot of people talking about. And me personally, I think it's smart not to, be like, okay, I can get Dangerfield, I can get Fife, I can get Gorn in my forward line. I want them, right? They might not get that 35. So if you put them 3 in, thinking, that's going to be the rest of your forward line, you're going to be stuck with those guys if they don't fire and they don't play that role. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. But I made one change. I think I brought in Kerno. At the
Charlie or Ed?
Yeah, Charlie at F4 now. So, but that's for another day. The only thing I have left is I follow Jackson Davey on Twitter and YouTube. He's part of the whole Jords and Fantasy Take group. He actually tweeted a stat about AFL Fantasy and the numbers in their DPP. So at round 6, have a guess how many players got DPP at round 6, Jack, last year?
I'd say about 10.
Oh, 53. at round 6 got DPP.
Jeez.
What do you think at round 12?
I'll be doubling that, about 106.
It's actually less. So
Ooh.
21 at round 12. So this is new people at round 12, not everyone combined.
Oh, yeah.
21 new people at round 12 got DPP, and at round 18, only 14. So it seems like the bulk of DPP will happen around 6. So if
with teams finding new strategies where to play people, yeah.
Yep. So if those big guys we were talking about, Dangerfield, Bond, stuff like that, if they're not there at round 6, it's going to be pretty hard for them to get there around 12 and around 18. Unless they carry an injury or something happens in the team where they're forced to. So I thought that was interesting. So shout out to Jackson for that.
Well, that just makes one of my rookies that we'll be talking in a bit, just makes his light a bit brighter than what I first thought. So that's a good sign.
Cool. All right. So the next part, we've done all the new rules, the instruction to us. We've decided that we're going to give you guys a bit of information about guys you don't really think of straight away at that mid-price range. That could break out. They're at a new club, or they're getting a new role, or coming off an injury. All of those. Okay, so I think we did 3 defenders, 3 midfielders, 2 rucks, and 3 forwards each.
Oh, I did 3 rucks and I chucked a 4th midfielder in.
Well, you've done more than you bloody had to.
Look at me.
Look at you. So we'll start with defense. I'll go through my 3 after each player. We'll have a chat about it if you have anything to say. Now, some of these might be the same. I don't know who Jack's chosen. He doesn't know who I've chosen. So it's completely random. So they can all be the same. They can all be different. Who knows? Okay, so in defense, I'll start off with Mr. George Hewitt. So he's priced at $399K. And is priced at an average point of 73. So what that means is $399K. That's the equivalent of 73 Supercoach points. Okay, so obviously Hewitt just got traded to the Swans.
The Blue Baggers.
From the Swans to the Blue Baggers. That's right.
The Blue Baggers.
So over the last few seasons at the Swans, Hewitt has played that defensive midfielder role. And sometimes the extreme of this was a tagging role. But he struggled to get consistent big minutes in a bolstered Swans midfield. If you think Kennedy, Parker, and then you've got Mills who just entered. Heaney's always in and out of there, and a few younger guys. So Hewitt found it hard to get those minutes. And at times he was put onto a half-back flank. He has a big tank, hence the tagging role. You don't put your biggest bloke as a tagger because he'll run out of puff halfway through the first quarter. And I see Hewitt as a player that the Blues need this season. That down and dirty tackles, but because of that big tank, he can go on the outside and run with the ball, which is ideal for us super coaches. But the big question is, what role does he play at Carlton? Is he, as I said,
I've heard some things that they plan to mainly play him in the back line.
Okay.
Because they rely on Ed Kerno a lot with that tagging role, and you see him in the midfield a lot. I heard that they're gonna try and mainly play Hewitt in the back line and rotate into the midfield, not necessarily be the tagging role, which could be good. It could be bad depending on his percentages in defence and midfield if he gets any in midfield.
All right, well, there you go. You got the latest scoop there by Jack. So yeah, what I was going to say is, if he does get that inside defensive role, now that doesn't have to be tagging. There's a whole bunch of players out there that plays the defensive mid. If you look at, well, now the Kangaroos, Hugh Greenwood, he wasn't a tagger, but he was, tackle, try and get those stoppages. That's the sort of role I'm thinking about. If Hewitt gets, that's why I'm talking about. He's going to score.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
But if he doesn't get that inside role, and what you're saying is true, and he goes on the half back, makes the pick less advertising, I feel.
And
because,
the problem with Carlton as well is their halfback flankers. You got Nick Newman, Sam Doherty when he's back, Liam Stocker. You've got so many options on the halfback flank. He's kind of going in. It kind of feels like he's going into the same role at Sydney, where it's like he's just going to be on the outskirts unless he overtakes one. With like Sam Doherty being out, he might be taking his spot in at the halfback flank. But when Doherty comes back, is Hewitt confirmed a spot?
Yeah, that's a great point, and if he does go, onto the halfback, I still see him getting that midfield time. It's just not as much as what we want. But if he's given the role we want, I'd like definitely a Supercoach asset at 399k. And with his tank, he can just spread from that contest, get the ball, effective kicks. It's Supercoach gold. It will be interesting though with the likes of Chera, who just came down from Freo, and Walsh in that midfield that are predominantly outside midfielders. That they like to be on the outskirts, get that handball, and then that's when they're most effective distributing the ball. They need that guy to feed the ball out to these players, and I think Hewitt could be that person. His last 7 games last season, and that includes an elimination final, he only dropped below his Supercoach average of 73 once with a 56. But his other scores were 134, 86, 75, 102, 106, and 106 again. That at 400k, if you're getting those scores consistently, you're laughing.
Yeah.
Obviously his floor of 75 there, being his lowest, but that high of 134, and with the right role, a few games can go above that. And if you go back 3 more games, he drops under the 73 once more with a 55, but he also scores another 97, 102. So at 399k, he could be a good mid-price player, and with DPP defensive mid status, could be the pod that some people are looking for. So I'd keep an eye on pre-season just to see where he plays. Anything to add there, Jack?
Well, I was going to put Chera into my midfielders, mid prices or, sneakies, but my worry was, is he going to be forced to play more of a wing role?
Mm-hmm.
Because you got Curnow, Cripps, Walsh, Hewitt if he goes in there as well. I feel like with Chera, personally, he will be doing not as well for Supercoach, but Hewitt, because we're talking about Hewitt, if he gets that midfield time, I reckon he could average 90 easily. At a consistent level, get 90s plus really easily, because even if he's in there with Cripps on Walsh, him and Cripps are 2 big bodies, but they're both amazing athletes at the same time. They're both got a lot of endurance. They've both got good ability on the ball. If Cripps gets in, and because a lot of teams will be looking at Walsh this year, they're going to be like, Walsh is their main man. We need to stop him. He's going to get all the pressure, and if Cripps is going in getting the ball, you're going to see most of the attention flow to Walsh, and it'll leave Hewitt, the Hewitts, the Cherrers, the Kernos, whoever's in the midfield with him, getting more touches. And if he's in there at the same time with one of them, I reckon he will be getting a lot of the ball.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's a good point, and I'm sure you'll go more in depth with Chera soon. Yeah.
I didn't put him in because of some reasons, but I can, yeah.
Okay, cool. The next person I'll go from Freo is Darcy Tucker.
Ooh.
At 323k, he's priced at a Supercoach point average of 59. So Tucker, he hasn't been the luckiest with injuries. Is this year where it all works out for him? Who knows? He's only played 22 games in one of his last 6 seasons, or 6 seasons in general. That being in 2019, where he also had his highest Supercoach average of 73. So that's 73. It's already 14 points higher than that average now. So with the last 2 seasons having only played 8 and 16 games in respective years, this is where the concern comes into play. Alongside with his body, there's a big question on his role. Does he play off the halfback or does he go onto the wing? Freo, they've been killing it in the draft recently. They have a lot of young talent ready to break through. With the likes of Caleb Sarong, which I'll touch on a bit later. I won't say anything, but big things with Sarong. And Hayden Young being the next two in line for a breakout. And with Young especially, does he force Tucker onto that wing? Because Young plays that kick-out role, but that running role as well off the halfback flank. So last year was the year to forget Supercoach-wise. He's massive talent when he's fit and firing, but I think at this stage he'd be a keeper option instead of a stepping stone. And by that I mean for him to make enough money for us, for him to be a good pick, he's going to have to average 94. And in the back line, 94, it's basically...
He's looking at Primo.
He's basically a top 10 to 12 defender. So it's not, that uber, I guess, Primo, like your Halls, your Lloyds. So it's a really awkward position to be in. But at the end of the day, would you basically waste a trade and go sideways to someone with a 94 average just to score another 3 to 4 points? At the moment, it's a no from me. I'm going full Australia's Got Talent. It's a no from me. But if we are feeling, if you guys are feeling lucky in a season that will be riddled with COVID, then why not? Eh?
But you got to think as well, players have done that as well. Look at GF last year for Hawthorn. He was 200k, maybe played one game the year before. Everyone had written him off, and then bang, he's killing it. Finished with an average of like 85 and is a mid-price defender now, which players are looking at putting in. So it's not like it's not possible. It all depends on the player's body, like Tucker's body, and his role in the team. But players in the past have proven that it is possible.
Yeah.
So there is hope.
And with GF last season, towards the end, he played injured. So that 85 could easily have been the 90 to 95 as well, which is what we want.
Ridiculous.
Which is what we want from Tucker at this just above 300k price. Anything else to say on Tucker, or should I move on to my last guy, which is your boy?
Apart from, I absolutely was not expecting Darcy Tucker. No, not really.
Cool. So I'll move on to your boy, and I have a feeling you might have him here as well. That is Daniel Ryoli.
Yes, I do.
My guy. 336k. He's priced at 61 Supercoach points. So the super talented Tiger has struggled to keep his spot in a 3-time premiership team over the last 5 years. How do you keep a spot when you have a team that just doesn't lose?
They're just bullying.
In a team like that, it takes 1 or 2 bad games, and you're gone for 6
You're
games.
gone. Yeah.
But late last
Look at
year,
Sydney Stack.
yeah, exactly. But late last year, Dimmer decided to try Ryoli on the back flank. Would that be correct, Jack?
Yes.
Yes. Where to me, he looked more comfortable getting more of the ball and being around that contest compared to previous seasons and games where he's stuck in the forward pocket and he chases after a guy with the ball, doesn't get the tackle, and then slowly jogs back to the forward pocket. The last 6 games of last season, he went under his price average of 61 only once, that being a 54. But his other scores were 83, 111, 87, 95, and 77. Scores like that consistently, you're looking at an average of, I'd probably say, 85 to 90-ish, which at 336k, you'd take that.
It's an absolute steal.
But also, you had the great man himself actually retire, and there's a halfback spot up for grabs at the Tigers. And Ryoli is proven to be serviceable in this role. So is he a shoe-in, Jack? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I've been seeing that preseason training. He's the standout. I've been hearing and seeing that his disposal of halfback during preseason has been amazing, which also continues from when he moved to the halfback flank, and that's what I've seen a lot of Richmond fans also say is they've seen that 2017 energy of Daniel Ryoli back. That season where he went off, even in like the grand final, where most of the first quarter, I don't think he had a touch, and then bang, on the boundary, he kicks a goal. Momentum changes. A lot of Richmond fans are excited about it, about him there. His defensive side of it might lack a little bit, but his ability to win the ball, and when he gets the ball, I would probably say the only forward that can catch him is Tip and Woody. Not many players can catch him. But another big thing about him is when he went to the halfback flank, his first game, his disposal efficiency was at 100%.
Yeah.
And every game that he played in defence, his disposal efficiency never went under 85%. So he was really effective when he had the ball, which is what made his Supercoach scores so high. Because he was still getting around the 10-15 touches, but those 10-15 touches were effective,
Yeah.
which boosted his points.
Yeah, and that's what we want, and that's what people have said about Adam Treloar is, he can find the ball, but he can't use it. So if you have someone who gets that 15 to 20 touches and is effective, that makes the score go from 60 to 85.
Yeah.
But another question for you, Jack, is do you think any of the new recruits you guys picked up in the draft, do you think they could anyone take that role from him?
Well, that you're asking this question now, and I kind of bring it up when we talk about the rookies.
Yep. Okay. Well.
So I kind of want to just leave it for that, so I'm not saying that when I have it planned to be said.
Yep. No worries.
But I do think he's an absolute steal, and he is currently in my team.
Yep. So I think we can both agree, if given the right role, he's a very sneaky pick, especially with
absolutely.
his DPP of defense forward.
Yeah.
So keep a track on him throughout preseason. So anything else to add, Jack, or should we go into your defenders now?
Well, my first one was Dan Ryoli, and we've kind of already covered that.
Yep. Did you have anything else there, or should we just move on to the next one?
The only thing is, if he's playing that halfback, I can see this being his breakout year, from being an average player at best to like a guaranteed spot in the team, like an important player. It's kind of like when Vloshtoon went from a midfielder where he was in and out, he was good sometimes, he was bad sometimes, to going to the defence and being one of the mainstays in the Richmond side for the last 5-6 years.
So,
I can
so,
see that happening with Dan Ryoli if he keeps this form that I'm hearing through preseason.
so, would you say he's a bit like that meme at the moments? Sometimes very good, sometimes very shit.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
Awesome. All right, so let's go to your second defender then.
The second one I had was Will Day, a man that I've been thinking about a lot in and out of my team. He's had a lot of injury problems last season.
Yeah, I've got a few things to say about Will Day after you're done here, so I'm very keen to hear.
But when he played, he showed great ability, scoring over twice in 5 games, scoring over 100 twice in the 5 games he played. Yeah, he finished with an average of 79.4. His other 3 games, he didn't score too well with 55, 43, and 65 as his scores. But when he played, and he played with Jaff and Impey on the team, it's like him and Jeff were both getting 20 touches and killing it like it was nothing. My big problem with putting him in is there's another Hawthorn man coming back in this season, Mr. James Sicily. How is Will Day's role going to change or stay with Sicily coming back into his side? Not his side, but coming back into the side. Will that affect his games? Like, will he play? Is it going to affect his position? Like, we don't, and they've got a new coach as well, Sam Mitchell. We don't know what he's thinking. He's completely different to Alistair Clarkson. They're different people. They're going to have different ways to play. It's going to be similar. It's going to be possession Hawthorn like always, but I can expect to see a different side of Hawthorn under Sam Mitchell, and you don't know how that's going to hinder any players for the Hawks.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a great point. You know, with Sicily coming back, and the emergence of Will Day, Scrimshaw, or GF, that's a lot of ball that has to go around. So
that's one thing as well. You saw Scrimshaw play more wing, not midfield.
Yeah.
Sorry, wing.
Yeah,
and Scrimshaw on the wing was solid, but it's like he was forced there because Clarko wanted to play Jaff, Impey, Day, Scrimshaw all in one.
Yeah, well, I've got some inside news on Will Day and GF as well, which might help for the listeners out there and you decide on Will Day. He is yet to go into full training. He's got an injury still at the moment, same with GF, so they're not training with the main group. They're doing runs and stuff like that. So with an uninterrupted pre-season, and it's going to take these guys a while to get back to that form that we're trying to look for and talk about. But I do agree that he is a star, and if
he's an amazing talent,
and if he is given the right role and stays fit, could be a good mid-pricer, but
not just that, he'll be a good player for years to come as well.
Yeah,
because he's young.
Yeah, no,
and he's at 345k.
Yeah, so yeah, I guess it's something you just have to check the preseason and how that injury is and what it is. I'm not 100% sure what the injury is, but I was reading something before.
I would suspect it'd be like a hamstring, like he's been dealing with. That's been the main thing he's dealt with. So I can see something related to that, which is making Mitchell a bit precautious.
Yeah, and that's one thing you have to think about with these soft to soft tissue injuries,
Look at Luke Shuey, for example.
There's a high chance they can come back. And Luke Shuey is perfect. I don't know if you heard, but today they had a inter-club game. Set a bounce at the start of the game. I think 2 minutes in, he jogged off and sent for scans. So
Another hamstring?
Don't know. They haven't released anything, but it's either hamstring or calf. It was definitely lower leg. So
was it just Shuey that got injured from that game, or is there others?
That's all I saw was him. But yeah. So is that all on day?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Who's your last defender?
My third defender is a man that you will like a lot.
Okay.
He comes from Collingwood, and he's probably the greatest mark I've ever watched. And his name is Jeremy Howe. And here's my thing with Jeremy Howe. In 2020, he had an average of 120 in 3 games before getting injured. His season scores were 156, 126, 88, and 112. Those were his scores in 2020. Then in 2021, played 8 games, injured again, had an average of 78.5, but he had the scores of 83, 95, 122, 78, 16 the game he got injured, 101, 75, and finished the season on a 58, which was apart from his injury, was his worst game. If he can keep his injuries away and he can get a full season in, I believe Jeremy Howe will be the best Supercoach option this year.
Oh, big call.
I reckon he will be the best averaging defender this year, and he's sitting at 427k. What can go wrong apart from him getting injured?
Apart from arthritis,
the main problem.
Yeah, because he's 40. Yeah, I guess with Howe, it's just the age. He's getting older. I think he's 33-ish.
32, 33. I'd say 32 or 33.
So he's getting up there, and these injuries are starting to come. And there was it ACL or was it PCL he did? I think it was ACL, and then
I think it was PCL.
One of them, anyway. One of the
that could have been avoided, but he went in late for a ball and he got collected in the leg.
Yeah, that was
by a player that was on his way up. So if he didn't try and be a hero there, I hate to use that word, but it looked like it. Coming in when someone's already won the ball to try and win the ball, and that knee collides, something bad's going to happen.
Yeah, he basically kamikaze his body.
Yes.
Yeah. Apart from the injuries, as you said, he does have the scoring potential. Now, did I hear you say he could be the highest averaging defender?
I believe he could. I believe he could be the highest averaging player in defence if he's fit.
So he can go past Aaron Hall and Jake Lloyd at 110.
Well, as you saw 2 years ago, he averaged 120. That's 10 more points.
Yeah.
And last season, he was still having scores of 120. While going through injuries, like he's ridiculous, and I hate it because he plays for Collingwood.
He's a good intercept mark and reads the play early and well, so that's where he gets a chunk on his points.
And he doesn't get points through kick-outs like a Lloyd and Hall.
Yeah.
Who take kick-outs and get Supercoach points there. He's scoring 122 just from in-game moments, not stoppages like kick-outs.
Yep.
That's him intercepting marks, getting his touches, being effective with his kicks. That's how he's scoring his points, and he's still
Yeah.
scoring 120s.
And
Like
what's his price again?
he's at 427k.
427k. All right, cool. Yeah, I mean, these defenders we've just listed, they're not the first people picked in defense, but
Some of them are very risky as well. If you love a risky pick,
yeah,
I do.
yeah, they're very risky and interesting, and could be a different pod for those out there that like a good pod. Shall we move on to the midfield?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Yep. I'll go first so you can catch your breath. The first one I have is Jared Berry. Now, Jared Berry was in my squad.
He was in mine as well.
He's now out of my squad.
Same.
But when I wrote this, he was in my squad, and there's a lot of good info in here, so we'll go through him. So Jared Berry, 268k, and he's priced at only 49 Supercoach points. 49, Jack.
Yes, he had a pretty piss poor season last year. As much as I really rate the bloke, injuries and a different role really hindered him.
Yep. So the line midfield gun has been riddled with injuries over the last few seasons. In his first 4 seasons, Berry had shown growth in his Supercoach average each year. So in his first year, he had an average of 61. And then year 2, that had a massive jump from 61 to 80. So that's a 19-point jump. Then a smaller jump in the third year to 84. And then another sizable jump in 2020 up to 97. And he only played 15 games in that season. Last season, he could only get on the track for 9 games, which is a worry, and didn't seem to get in the groove and wasn't the player he was before all these injuries, and he didn't have the role. I think they were a bit careful, we'll get some games into him and stuff like that.
They were precautious. He was sitting forward pocket.
Yeah. Berry is never afraid to get dirty, and he loves a tackle. In round 4 of 2020 against the Crows, he had 23 possessions and 10 tackles for a whopping 150 Supercoach points. So
I remember that.
If he can get back into his groove and the right role, he's not going to average 150, obviously. But
absolutely not. No one will.
If 150 is his ceiling and the highest he'll go, I think I'll take that at 268k.
Absolutely.
All the news articles I've been reading and people on Twitter have been saying that this preseason he has looked fit and hungry, and as they always say, he's training the house down. That old chestnut that you hear about every player every season. But if Berry can get a full pre-season in, I think he can average anywhere from 90 to 105.
Easily.
And at a starting price of 268, you'll save a trade, and he'd be a great M8 spot or maybe M9 come finals time. I'm not sure who Brisbane had in the last round, but it's one in their favour. You're chugging on at M8, and could win you that Supercoach final. And before I say this next line, remember I did write this up before he was booted from my side, but a big yes from me. But if there are any niggles in the preseason, he's straight out. So keep an eye on him if he keeps going. I'd say yes, depending on your team and structure. But even the small sort of niggles, I'd be cautious and say bye byes. Anything to add there, Jack? Or
well, I was going to say, the reason you took him out, was it because of a niggle, or was it you just found someone more suited?
So, as I said at the start, I got Curnow as a F4. So I had to get some cash. So I downgraded Berry to fit Mccrae. So I'll go on to my next player, and sticking on the Pies theme with Mccrae Patrick Lipinski.
Ooh, I like that.
At 359k, priced at only 65 Supercoach points. He's very similar to Ryoli in the fact that he struggled to get a game for the Premiership contending Bulldogs. The last few years, they've been up there, they've been coming, and with the midfield of Mccrae, Dunkley, Bond, and Trelaw, and that's not including Kings, Seagull, Lockie Hunter,
and Baslenka Smith.
Yeah, you can see why he struggled to get a game. He has always showed glimpses in games and proves that he can be a very good footballer. But until we see some consistency, he's unproven at this stage. Saying this, he has made the move to the Pies, where they are rebuilding and looking to give the kids or the young guys a chance. Just on that, I saw a tweet an hour ago from someone who was at the Collingwood training session today, and these people played a majority of time in the midfield. Lipinski, Mccrae, Taylor Adams, Nick Dacos, both Browns. They were the main ones, and DeGoey had an 80-20 split, with 80 being in the forward line and 20% mid. So that's just a little bit on that, and there's a few other guys that had a small run, but we're not going to talk about those.
Was Josh Dacos in the midfield, or was he like his usual wing, or was he somewhere else?
So Hoskin Elliott, Dacos of the Josh variety, Poulter and Sidebottom were on the wings.
Okay.
So saying this, he's made the move to the Pies, and as I said, giving the kid a chance. I've seen some footage of him in pre-season, and I know they only showed the good bits in these small videos and stuff, but he's looking good, and it looks like he'll be a consistent body in around those centre bounces, which is very exciting.
That's a surprise. I thought he would come in and play that wing role like he did for the Bulldogs, but if he's playing in the guts, that's an even better choice than what I was actually thinking at the start.
Yeah. And now to talk in the Supercoach sense, he's had a highest average of 81, and only having a high of 17 games in the single season. That was in 2018. So that doesn't look great, does it?
It doesn't, but a good thing about that is it hasn't been injury problems.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you don't have to worry about that with him. Where with Collingwood, it's like he's coming in for a new chance. You're not like anyone can get injured at any time. Don't get me wrong, but you're not thinking, oh, do I get Patrick Lipinski? He's had injury problems. You're going, oh, do I get Patrick Lipinski? Is he going to play?
Yeah, I totally agree. That's actually a great point. As I was going to say, a big but at a new club where it looks like he's getting the role he needs. I can see him going 85 to 90 average this season. If he goes any more above that, it's a win. It's a win, and he's a long stay keeper. Could be a good option on the bench come finals time, like what I said with Berry. But for him to achieve that max of 95, he needs to work on his decision making. There's a few times he doesn't lower his eyes and he just kicks long. And he needs to work on his tackling, which I think I've seen an improvement in that. Certainly someone to look at through the preseason, especially with what I just said he's in the midfield. He's right in there. So anything else to add, or should I go to my last player, which I'm very excited about?
I don't have much more on Lipinski. I'm excited to see who your last person is.
My last pick Caleb Sarong. At 461k, he's priced at 82 Supercoach points. Now, Jack, do you smell that? Do you smell it? Do you smell what the Rock's cooking?
No, what's he smell?
It's a breakout. It's a breakout player.
Now, do you want to laugh?
I do not.
I said the exact same thing in my midfields with Caleb Sarong.
Oh, stop it.
I'm not even joking.
So there is no doubt that this kid is a gun.
I'm very excited to see what he can bring.
In his first 2 seasons, he had averages of 81 and 82. And going into his 3rd year, I'm calling it now, Jack. Remember this day, the 26th of the 1st, 2022, Caleb Sarong will average 110 plus this season. With the likes of Mundy turning 93 this season.
And yeah, I'm surprised he's still playing.
And Fife battling, these small niggles and injuries. It's time for the young guns to get that inside mid time. We saw this with Brayshaw last season. He did break out, but he's got another level to break out. He can be that Uber, Jack Steele, Jack Mccrae, Clayton Oliver, Took Miller type of player. But he's already got to that 110 mark. Now it's time for Brayshaw to get to that 120. And we're talking about Sarong getting to that 110. In his last 7 games last season, Sarong went 100, 59, 103, 82, 115, 135, and 103. The 59 came from poor decision making and kicking. I think he got 20 to 25 disposals in that game.
Yeah.
So obviously he just wasn't using it the way he should. And I think if 82 is his lowest score, if he has a bad game and it's 82, I'd take that. Okay? It wouldn't be too bad. With more CBAs, that's centre bounce attendances, and midfield time and opportunity, I don't see a world where he does not improve and go over that 100 average. There's not much more I can say. He's at an awkward price at 450, but if you're looking for a breakout pod this year, I found your man.
Can I just add on to something that you didn't mention?
Of course.
Caleb Strong last year played a majority of his time on the wing because they had Chera taking his midfield minutes as well. And I had Chera in, and I changed it to Caleb Sarong for the one thing. Chera's fighting 5 or 6 blokes in the midfield to get some time in the midfield and not wing. Yep. Caleb Sarong is slipping into Chera's role.
Yep.
Now that Chera's gone, Sarong, he'll probably still have some time on the wing, because you got Mundy, Fife, Brayshaw, Sonny Walters will go in there at some point, right? You got those players, so he'll spend some time on the wing, but majority of his points are going to be in the guts. The one thing he wasn't getting last year with those scores you mentioned were contested possessions, clearances.
Yep.
Add clearances and contested possessions into that 82.9. That's already a bump to 95, 100.
And more opportunity to get the ball. Yeah. So those 20 games will go into 28 to 34 sort of games as well.
So that's why I changed him last second with Chera, because he's exciting, he's fun to watch, gets the ball, and he was doing it as a wingman.
Yep.
Now you're chucking him in the guts.
It excites me that you're as excited about Caleb Sarong than I am.
It also excites me I don't need to say 4 midfield pods because you've already put one in.
There you go. All right, mate. Well, do you want to get into your mids?
I do. My first 2 players are very risky. I will say that. First one, I like that. Hugh Greenwood. Now, if I say, I'm going to say this, one of the most dramatic postseasons for a player since Dustin Martin and his North Melbourne contract. 1 second he's a Sun and he's committed for life. Next second, he's walking in Arden Street. What a turn of events that was.
Yeah, and getting a big cheer by their 13 members.
Kanga.
All right, tell
Um,
us a bit about him.
so he finds himself playing for North Melbourne, a team who have a lot of midfield names, but not a lot of damaging midfielders.
Mhm.
Right? He's a proven ball winner. He gets 20 to 25 touches a game, and he's one of the best pressure act beasts to field next season for any team.
Yeah, similar to what I was talking about with George Hewitt, that defensive midfielder, but not necessarily a tagger. Yeah.
Hugh Greenwood, he's a bull, right? There's no other way to put it. He's a fucking bull. He averaged 93.2 Supercoach points in 15 games last season before getting his injury. Now, I'm not quite sure what injury it was. I know it was some sort of leg.
Yeah.
But he averaged 93.2 last season in a Gold Coast team where Took Miller was. Took Miller. He was doing majority of the touches. Right? North Melbourne, you got a similar player in Ben Cunnington, but he's got cancer.
Yeah.
So he's probably I hate to it sucks and I feel sorry for him. Hope he recovers from it. But he's a bull who, like Greenwood, who doesn't need many touches and has a massive impact. Saw him last season scoring 110, 120s like it was nothing. He's gonna be out the team for a while. I can see Hugh Greenwood sliding into that spot to start the season. And if Ben Cunnington comes back, he'll play. I still reckon he'll play a lot of midfield minutes, but he'll also go down forward, which he showed for Gold Coast last season that he is capable of doing and scoring well while doing it. So I think at 507k, you're looking for someone like you need money because you want Mccrae, Took, Oliver, Steele in your midfield, and you need that cheaper option for your fifth if you want. I can see Hugh Greenwood being a very good selection if he isn't injured.
Yeah, no, I look. He's, the whole point of this section was, players we're not going to think about. And at Gold Coast last year, he was pretty cheap, wasn't he? Last year,
I think he was around 490 as well. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, people were looking at him next year. Last year. The only thing I have to say around that is the young Roos mids have arrived.
Yeah.
Jai Simpkin,
That's
I think, will be North Melbourne's highest averaging Supercoach player.
Jai Simpkin, isn't he around coming to his prime?
Yeah, he's a breakout potential. You have Davies Uniac, who's starting his stride. You have the young guys, Will Powell. Not Will Powell. Tom Powell. Will
Powell's the Gold Coast defender.
Yeah. Will Phillips. And you put in Juan Francis, chopping out there. Where's all these points going to come from? Obviously Greenwood has that experience and that tougher body. So I think you can lock in Simpkin in the midfield, definitely Cunnington and Davies Uniac when Cunnington plays. So that last midfield position is up for grabs, and I'm guessing that's where you think Greenwood fits in.
Not really. This is what I was thinking because you know how I said he'd play forward as well?
Yeah.
Who else played midfield and forward that you just mentioned for North Melbourne last season?
Howell?
Luke Davies Uniac.
Yeah.
Similar body type, and the North Melbourne coach really liked him there. So what I can see happening is, just say Greenwood starts in the midfield, Davies-Uniacke will start as a tall forward or like a key forward, and then when they go to rest Greenwood, they'll switch him into the forward line and chuck Davies-Uniacke into the midfield. I can
Do you,
see them playing a switching role and sharing the midfield minutes and forward minutes.
do you think that changes though with Cunnington out at the moment? Do you think?
With Cunnington out, I can see Hugh Greenwood starting at that Cunnington role, like I said.
And
Just when if Cunnington comes back this year, I can see him and Davies-Uniacke sharing midfield time, switching forward.
Okay, yep. I've got nothing else to say on Greenwood. Obviously, it's probably just check his role in pre-season.
Yeah.
I think we're going to get two games to see structures and stuff. So,
And one's not even a pre-season game; it's classified as a warm-up.
yeah. Who's your next one, Jack?
Well, the reason I asked about Luke Shuey and West Coast is my second choice is Elliot Yeo.
Yo.
A few seasons ago, he was the must-have player in your Supercoach side.
Yep.
Then injury struck, and he struggled to play consistently. If he's able to get his body right, he played 12 games last season. That's about half a season, which is not bad for him with the last couple of seasons. He averaged 86.6.
Yep.
He's sitting at 470k. Massive bargain. If he's able to play the 23 games this season, he is going to be the Elliot Yeo of old. Probably not averaging the 120s that he was, but I can see him averaging 100 to 110 if he plays a full season. And at 470k, you're dreaming.
So that 110 mark, that would be like coming end of the year, an M8 spot, you would say?
Yeah. I'm not saying he's going to be your number one midfielder, but I'm saying if you want a cheeky M7, M8, and Elliot Yeo is fit, I can see him being your man.
Well,
and a lot of people will be scared of him because of his injury troubles.
On fit, unfortunately, he's not trained with the group.
That's the problem
at the moment. So uninterrupted pre-season. Do you think he's a starting pick?
Absolutely.
Even with a interrupted pre-season.
Well, if he's out, let's just say this week and next week, or next 3-4, right? He's still got heaps of time. You can see him playing in the preseason games. You know, they'd want him to get game time in to see how he can last. Yeah. Obviously, the preseason games, he's not going to play majority of game. You might see him play a half for both, maybe like a half for the first game and 3/4 for the second, or 2.5 quarters.
Yeah.
But if he's able to keep fit, he's a lock for that West Coast midfield, and he's going to score.
Yeah, so I'd probably say at this stage,
it's a maybe. Be careful
with the injury and lack of preparation. It might take him a few weeks to get started, so maybe he's not a starting pick, but a few rounds.
He could be a downgrade option if one of your big players go down.
Yeah. If Neil goes down and goes firing, I can see a world where you chuck him in there. Do you have anything else to add on Yo, or do we go to your last one?
That's all on Yo. The third one, my third one, also hinders your man, Jared Berry.
Yep.
Zack Bailey.
Ooh, I like Zack Bailey. This is going to be interesting.
He's had a big 2021 and an average of 84.4. Zack Bailey is young, and he's got a lot of experience in him. And here's the good thing about him. He's a midfield forward, so he might not necessarily be your midfield pick, but I've chucked him in my midfield picks because I got 5 forwards, and I don't want 2 mids and 6 forwards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He started off just playing as a half-backer, and he was averaging around 75 for Brisbane the last couple of seasons. This season, he played a lot in the midfield, a lot on the wing, and the half-forward flank. And what you saw with Zack Bailey was when he went forward, he had the pressure axe, which he was robbed of a game-winning goal against Geelong.
Yep.
And he's proven when he has shots on goals, he's one of the most reliable shots on goal there is.
Yep, let's not talk about the one against Collingwood. Let's move on from that.
And old mate Fags, gotta love him, doing his hamstrings all the time. He was really excited. You could see when Bailey played in the midfield. You had him, Zorko, who were getting plenty of touches in there and having damaging kicks forward to the forwards, which brought in players like Eric Hipwood and Joe Danaher, which Joe Danaher, what a Supercoach option he was last year.
Very consistent, yeah.
Zack Bailey probably can't fit your midfield 8, but he could easily be a top forward option.
Yeah.
Because he's only going to get better.
Yep. I guess the only question on Bailey is how much mid-time does he get? Because I don't think he did play full midfield yet.
No. He played park games in the midfield and he averaged 84.
Yeah. So with the likes of Neil, Lyons, McCluggage, Berry coming back, so with Zack Bailey, it's not going to be a lot of minutes, but when he's in there, he looks good and he always snags a goal, it seems. And
that's what was with part of my option. His ability that he played on the wing as well.
Yeah.
That's the same with McCluggage. You saw McCluggage on the wing a lot last season, and he was killing it.
Yeah.
I can see him probably getting more wing minutes, going into the middle when needed, and forward.
Yeah, well, I've said it before.
You're going for a forward who's going to be playing wing, getting those touches, and will sneak a goal in at some point, if not 2. Yeah. He's gonna look good.
Yeah, there's no doubting his talent, and it's exciting to watch. So no, I like that pick. Not in my side or thoughts at the moment, but for those out there,
he's not in my side, but he's someone I have been looking at.
Awesome, and you had Sarong as your.
I had Sarong as my 4th. Like I said, I was gonna put Chera, but I can't see him getting the guts minutes that he did last season with Freo. I can see him playing more of a wing role.
Yeah.
Instead of being in the middle end. He averaged, I think it was like 90.6 last season in the midfield. He's going to the wing. He's going to lose a bit of those clearances and contested possessions.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's going to be. I could be wrong. He could play full midfield. Who knows? Who knows what Michael Voss is going to do? But with the names that Carlton has, right now I can see him playing more of a wing role.
Yeah, and then look, for those listening, next week we're going to start our team previews. So we're going to go through 6 teams each podcast in alphabetical order, which means we have Carlton next week. So I think I'll let you take Carlton next week, and you can go more in depth with Chera next week.
Blue Baggers, they have a soft spot in my heart. I can't lie. They've done some good things for me.
So shall we move into our rucks?
Yeah.
So my first ruck, going along with the Brisbane theme,
The big O.
Oscar
The big scary O.
At 509k, priced at 93 Supercoach points. So similar to Jared Berry, the big O has been on a consistent Supercoach rise. In his first season, he averaged just 58, and that was as tall forward. That's really all he played. But then he started to play a bit more in the ruck, and that increased next season to 67, then up to 82, and last season up to 93. So he's had a nice consistent 9 to 15 average boost roughly each season, and I see him increasing that up again to 110. Last season, and Jack, this is huge. Last season, from round 15 onwards, he had scores of 115, 114, 106, 91, 148, 113, 120, 131, 96, 127, and 82. Big, yeah.
I remember that because of my draft side last year. He was my ruckman pick, and he was almost my ruck pick last season in my actual squad. I raved about him last season to you. I'm not sure if you remember, but I was big on him back then.
And do you want to know something interesting? With the scores of 131, 127, and 120, this was against Grundy, Gawn, and Sean Darcy. So he seems to go up a gear against the big boys. But some of his lower scores were against a few of the weaker or the more unexperienced rucks. So this is an area he needs to improve to be able to bump up to 110.
Just consistency, not it. Who knows what it is? It could be this kid's new. I've got this easy, or where he's going against the Grundy. He's like, fuck, this is one of the best rucks in the comp. I've got to go all out for my team to have a chance. If he can have that mentality every round, he could easily be top 3 ruck.
Oh yeah, I totally agree.
Height, his wingspan, his ability to kick goals and go forward as well.
Yeah. So during the preseason, his teammates have actually come out and a few of them come out and said he's the hardest worker at the club, and he's always looking to improve his skills. And he's even gotten the Matty Rail notebook out during team meetings, and has been jotting down notes and really taking that in. So that's something you want to see, and could be a big factor to him improving. If he stays healthy and works as hard as they are saying, I don't see why he couldn't get to the height of the big 3 boys, which is what you were just saying. At the moment, though, he is more of a Supercoach draft selection. But if Darcy or Gawn or Grundy go down with an injury, he'd be my replacement for sure.
But here's the thing. He's someone who you could look at and be like, you said he was 509? Okay.
509k, yeah.
Yeah, right. You could be looking at it like, okay, I've gone stacked in my midfield. I can't afford Gawn, Grundy, Darcy. I can't afford 2 of the 3. Who can I look at that's 100k cheaper and gonna put in a role that's gonna probably not score as much as them, but close to?
Yeah.
Oscar McInerney is one amazing selection for that purpose. It just depends on how you structure your team.
Yeah, totally agree. All right, so my next ruckman, CCJ Callum Coleman Jones at 361k, priced at 66 Supercoach points. He was starved of opportunities in a premiership contending side with only 9 games in 2 seasons. He got the opportunity early, and with Lynch going down, he went bang with a 4-goal effort for 112 Supercoach, and followed up the next 2 games with 2 goals apiece at scores of 86 and 81. Unfortunately, this is when the CCJ train stopped. Funny enough, was when I traded him in, so I apologise. Failing to get above 70 in his last 5 games, which is really concerning. He's a super talented player waiting to get the opportunity to develop, and he will get that at the Roos behind Goldstein. And given the chance at the Roos, with the Roos midfield starting to bolster up, I can see him being that main target down there with a good pair of hands and a reliable boot. Could easily get that average up to 80-85. If you're a risk taker and want a mid-pricer in the forward line that isn't Cornelio, with DPP status as a ruck forward, would be a great option if Darcy or those with Bruce go down. Anything to add, Jack?
Here's my problem. Coleman Jones left Richmond because he wanted more ruck minutes. North Melbourne has told him he's going to play a lot more in the ruck.
Yeah.
And here's the problem with that. When he went into the ruck, his Supercoach score barely moved. And in those last 5 games where you said he was averaging not so great, he was mainly playing in the ruck with Nankervis being out and Richmond having, and Soldo injured, Richmond not really having a ruckman.
Yeah.
That was the problem with his Supercoach points, and he's been offered more ruck time at North Melbourne. So if he's spending more time in the ruck and that hasn't really developed much, I can't see his scoring going as high as it was.
Yep. No, totally agree. All right, do you want to quickly go through your rucks?
Funny enough, my first ruckman is a Tiger.
Oh.
And he goes by the name of Toby Nankervis.
Big Toads. Nank the Tank. All right, I forget.
Last season, he looked to be the best Richmond player, if not second best. He was the one person when he played, he gave everything. He had a few scores over 100, and he never got under that 80, like very rarely got under that 80 mark. He had the average of 93.6 through the season from 16 games. Now, that's a worry for us, 16 games. You want a ruckman, you want him to play 22. But with how Nankervis played last season, his ability to push back, intercept mark, he was looking like the Grundys, the Gaunts. He was very hard to beat in the air when he went back and helped out the defence. But the one thing that I would say he has over a Gaun is his ball use. Nankervis is very good by foot, especially for ruckman standards. People don't rate ruckman's kicking ability. He's very good with it. You'd even see with Richmond's counter-attack play, he was a person they were going to. They were in defence, they were kicking in the middle to Nankervis, and they believed he would beat his opponent, but also take the mark, get back, and hit a target quickly, which he showed to do. And he's 509k. If you can't afford the double Gawn, Grundy, Darcy, him and Big O for me are the 2 lower ones that you could have as your second ruckman.
Yep.
But he needs to keep fit.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think you covered everything. Just one thing with Nan getting a bit older. Does he not be best 22, or does he go?
Here's the thing.
Stay a bit more forward.
He's only 27, 28.
All right.
He's in the prime of his career.
I thought he was a lot older.
Yeah, no, he's in his mid-late 20s. I'm pretty sure. I'll just double check now, but I am pretty sure he's in his mid to late 20s. He's 27.
27, there you go.
So he's not as old as people think he is. And he's he's in the prime of his career, and you could see that last season he took that step up from the last couple of seasons. Not saying he was bad the last couple of seasons, but you could see he had a bigger role with the team.
Yep.
I guess you could say the problem is he was the number one ruckman. He was in there 90% of the time last season.
Yeah.
With Soldo back, how's his minutes going to be?
Yeah.
That's probably the only worry I can see. But I can see with his role being as big as it is, he can easily reach 105, 110 next season and be a valuable ruck option.
Yeah, nice. Sweet. Your next one?
Risky?
I like
Risky. Jared Witt.
F-Woods.
An ACL injury ruined his season 3 games in last season. But he had the average of 87.3 at 3, and he's at 380k. ACL injuries, as you know, there's like a 35% chance of it reoccurring.
That's a great stat, Jack. Where'd you get that from?
All right. Well, obviously, the man who knows about ACLs himself.
Okay, sorry.
But one, he's 380k, so he's going to play for Gold Coast if he's fit.
Yep.
He's their only ruckman, right? He's gonna easily be a money-making ruckman. But 2, if he can get into his form the last 2-3 seasons, he could be top 3 ruckman again, top 3, top 4 ruckman again, and him starting at 380k.
Yeah. I think he's definitely one with a high upside, especially with Miller, Anderson, Rowell, these names, making names for themselves, but also on the downside is he's probably going to get injured again.
Yeah.
And I don't like him.
I don't like him as well. And you'll see that with the forwards. One of my forwards, my first line is, I despise the bloke.
I don't
but
know who that's going to be.
Dustin Martin.
I've got nothing else to add.
But
there, so.
Yeah, if you're there going, I can see him getting injured at 380k. Would you start him? Have him play for, just say, if he's able to play 5 to 15 rounds, go up to 500k. Then he gets injured. You can trade him up, and then you've got your Gawn, Grundy, Darcy in.
Yeah, but then on the other end, if he gets injured in round 2, you're
fucked.
Your only way down is to Bruce, who's probably also injured.
Funny enough, you say him. My third option, Braden Bruce.
Oh, here we go.
He's at 247k. You're looking at a money maker, pretty much. That's what he is. He's a money-making ruckman.
Yeah, cash cow.
He's proven in the past with Melbourne he can play at AFL level a bit. He can get the ruck taps. He's not really great with his disposal, but he's a tap ruckman. He coming in at 204k. You're expecting him to get 30, 40s to make money. He's someone I can see scoring 60, 70.
More.
Consistently, maybe more.
Right? If fit, he's probably around that 90 to 105.
Yeah. Right, but you know what I mean? Like, you're looking around that. He's at a team where ruckmen are dead. They're always injured.
Yep.
No matter when in the season, the Giants have 1-2 ruckmen injured. That's why they took the precaution early with Shane Mumford chucking him in the draft so they can take him as a mid-selection pick, mid-year draft pick, because they're worried about their ruckman's fitness.
Yeah.
That's more of a risky option, But with him, another just money-making ruckman that you can look at is Ivan Soldo. He's at
Okay.
326k with ACL injury, didn't play a game. He's guaranteed a spot in the first 22.
Yeah.
And he's shown he can improve 80.
Yeah.
He's if you're scared of Bruce and you want a money-making ruckman, he's a solid option to go with.
Yeah. Look, the rucks are a lot harder to talk about because if it's not the big three, they're not really someone you look for, but people out there do look for them. So, all right, I think we'll move straight on to the forwards. All right, so my first one, I have Cam Rayner at 278k, price of 51 Supercoach points. Rayner has always been hyped to be the next star of the Lions, and has showed glimpses here and there, but he's yet to deliver. He was promised mid-time last year before he went down with an ACL and ended his season before round one. From what I've heard, this has been an uninterrupted preseason, and he's looking fit, strong, and fast. He's been training with the midfield group, so positive signs so far. In his last 3 seasons, he has the highest average of 73, which was in 2020. For Rayner to become a good selection, he needs to improve his average up past that 85 to profit the 150k. In the forward line, this was also before DPP changes. He becomes a good selection. He needs to improve past that 85 to become a keeper. To achieve this, he needs to have a decent amount of CBAs and improve his kicking and decision making. Keeping an eye out for him in the pre-season. But the same with Jared Berry. If there's any niggles, that's a hard no. I'm going to move on to my next one, Charlie Curnow. 224k price at 41 Supercoach points. The man I bought in. Curnow was the next big thing to follow in the likes of Buddy Franklin. He's a big, tall forward, very agile, and has a high work rate. He really started to develop, and in 2018, where he averaged 77 Supercoach points, he went down with a big injury over the last and over the last few seasons, has struggled to get back on the track. And every time he did, something small would pop up, it seemed. He's a big injury risk, and with the emergence of Mccrae Patrick, who I personally rate higher than Curnow, but that's not related to Supercoach at all. Will Curnow play second fiddle, or will he be the guy they go to? The upside for Curnow is if he stays fit and healthy, is that at his price he will need to average 76 Supercoach points, make 150k, which is what we all aim for from our rookie price or our smaller price players. And then that way he can be a stepping stone to Taranto, Duncan, or Dunkley, or those DPP guys. But on the other hand, if he surpasses the 75, you have a tough decision on is he a keeper. As I've said, it's a very risky pick, but also he's got some Joe Danaher vibes about him from last year. They're both in a very similar situation with the amount of time out of the game that they had with serious injuries. The risk takers, hence me, will like the upside, but don't get the downside as much steeper. Anything on those two first ones, Jack, before I shock you with my third one?
Well, I had Cam Rayner as one of mine. And the only thing I can add is last season it looked like he was going to have a big year.
Yeah.
A lot of hype was around him.
Yeah. He's definitely one that has the potential. He just needs to find it. So you ready for my last one?
Yep.
Connor Nash. At 310k, price at 56 Supercoach points. Now, I can already sense the confusion on this pick. And up until about a week ago, I didn't even think of Nash as a pick at all. But everyone's talking about this bloke. He usually gets the Supercoach spot on fan footy, and with 26 games in 4 seasons, it doesn't look great for him. But in the last 4 games of last season, he was thrown into the midfield and pumped out scores of 82, 87, 44, and 99. The scores above 80 were against the Lions, Pies, and Tigers, which all have established strong midfields. And the 44 were against the Dogs, where he got plenty of the ball, but he was very wasteful. I've been reading and hearing that Sam Mitchell is looking to blood the young guys through the midfield. Now, this doesn't mean that the likes of Shields, O'Meara, and Tom Mitchell will be thrown into a forward or back pocket. But it does mean that these young guys like Nash will see some more mid-time. And that's what we want from these young Hawks. As the young guys need to start to develop the club to move forward. If Nash gets his opportunity, he could easily go between 75 and 85 and make you just over 100k. I wouldn't say he'd be a keeper at his role, as his role could change at any moment, but that 100k could come in handy around the buys. Once again, just keep your eyes on what Clarko does with the Magnets in pre-season. Anything, Jack?
Interesting. Very interesting pick.
Yeah. If you want, we'll quickly go over your forwards.
So my first one, a Richmond boy, he's in my team, Jack Graham.
Yep.
A big year for Graham at Richmond. He fit in very nicely at the half-forward flank and averaged 84. Last season, he had 7 scores over 100, including a massive 154 Supercoach point game in round 21. He's been a little inconsistent with his Supercoach scores, but with his definitive role that he's got, and because he's still very young, he's like 21, 22 now, maybe still a bit younger, getting more games into him, Jack Graham could be a massive pod choice to have in your Supercoach side. He's at 457k, like I said, average 84, playing as a half-forward flank and midfielder for Richmond. Yep. But one big thing with Richmond, and you saw with Jack Graham last year, is Dimmer pushes that first forward line up. They push up to the wing. And what you saw last season was you'd have, at the end of last season, you had Ryoli's on the ball, kicking it forward. Bang, there's Jack Graham there, marking it, turning around, inside 50 disposals, which is more Supercoach points, and he was kicking goals.
Yep.
So I feel like he can take his game to the next level this year and be averaging that 95 to 100 mark.
Yeah, I definitely see a big improvement from Graham. The only thing, he has dodgy shoulders.
He played a full season last season. That's what has me more confident.
Yeah, no, I think he's just played it a few times in the past. So, it's. Yeah. I'm not saying he's going to do it, but it can. But yeah, I definitely see an improvement. I definitely see a 90 average, and if he pushes through that, I think it's a good selection.
My second one, as much as I despise the bloke, he has the most off-field drama in the world, Jordan De Goey. He's back at training at Collingwood. He looks happy. He looks excited. He looks ready to go. And like you said, he had a practice game today or intra-club game. He had 20% midfield time. Knowing that now, that's hindered the choice a little bit.
Yep.
But he averaged 85.2 last season in 20 games.
Yep.
I wrote this before knowing, playing more midfield time will help his Supercoach season. And with 8 scores over 100 last season, he's a player to stop ignoring because he's a name we don't like and look as a genuine option for our forward lines.
Yep, I 100% agree with that. I think today playing the match sim up forward, I think that could be just because he's maybe a bit underdone because he hasn't had the full preseason with the club. Or they're saying, mate, you're not going to be a walk-in back to this midfield. We have these young guys that have put in the effort over the off-season and now pre-season. We want to give them a go. You have to earn it. Because there's still a lot of respect there that he has to earn.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I really like what you said that, as much as we do hate him, or dislike him, because hate's a pretty strong word.
Yeah.
He can be a very good option. Probably not at the start of the season, but once he gets into it, he could definitely be someone around the buys you look to because he's hitting his strides.
My third one, when I first saw him at 261k, I was absolutely shocked. A man that you slightly mentioned, Stephen Cornelio. Like Elliot Yeo, a couple of seasons ago, he was a must-have midfielder in your teams.
Yeah, 110-ish average?
Yeah. Obviously, injuries hindered him, and he had a different role towards the end of last season, playing more forward. But how do we know that's going to be his role going forward? How do we not know that was them? Like, he's a class player. We need him playing. Let's sneak him in the forward line. See if he can do a role for us there. He's our captain. We need him. Let him get a pre-season in and put him back with midfield minutes.
That's one of 23 captains that they have.
Absolutely. And you put Cam Rayner in. We spoke about him.
Yeah.
My last pick.
And just quickly on Cogs, I think he is a must-have. Even if he plays, predominantly forward, I think he's still going to average at 85. And at 260k, you'll definitely take that. And if he gets that mid-time, he can go back up to 95 to 100. So really rate the pick. And if you don't have him, and he's fit and firing for round one, he should be in there. Sorry, Jack, go on.
Well, going with that, right now I've got this man in ahead of him. With scores of 82 and 104 last season, Jade Gresham.
I thought that's who it might have been.
Like I said, scores of 82 and 104 before seriously injuring his back in round 3. From all reports, he's training with the St Kilda main team, and he looks like he'll be available around 1. I know a couple of mates who know him, and they said that he's looking good. And the Saints are really excited that he's back. At 299k. With those two scores last season, he's someone that every Supercoach fan should be looking at to put into their team. Like you said, forwards, you want around 90, 95 average. In the 2 games he played, he got 82 and 104.
Yeah, so what's an average of? It's like 91.
Yeah, in 2 games.
Yeah.
Obviously, a serious back injury. How can you bounce back from it and be the same player? That's the big worry.
Yep.
But if all the reports at St Kilda are true, that he's killing it in training, he's in the first team training, and they're really excited about him, it's a very good option.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of teams with him in there. They've skipped Rayner and they've gone the extra 30k for Gresham. I think I have read a few things saying he's training with the midfield, not the midfield, the forward group at the moment. So maybe it's his role is 60-40 going forward, with 60 and then 40 in the midfield. They might just ease him back a little bit, and might take him a few games to get that fitness up, because I've always said you can train as much as you want, but you'll never be match fit.
Oh, absolutely.
So it might take him a bit, but if you jump on him at the start of the year, I mean, that's the only time I really jump on him, because I would pay for 450K for him mid-season. You'd have to get him round one, and he starts like a bullet out of a gun. Then you're already up on the competition. So another one that you just got to watch pre-season and see if he does slowly move into that midfield.
Like I said with my last line, who doesn't love a risky pick working for them?
They're very, very hard to come by. But
It's very hard to come by, but when it happens, you're loving life.
Definitely. So that basically wraps up the podcast for tonight. Hopefully you guys got a small insight into what we offer on a weekly basis. Next week we will be starting our mini series that I spoke about, and that will have us dive deep into the first 6 clubs, and that's in alphabetical order. So I'm pretty sure you go from Adelaide, Brisbane, Carlton, Collingwood, Essendon, and into Freo. If I've missed any, then I apologise. And we'll give our opinions on how we see their season going and who we think is Supercoach relevant and who is not, and also chat about their rookies and if any of them are relevant or not. So just quickly, we will be recording every Wednesday, and hope to have the podcast go live before the first bounce for the Thursday games. We do understand that there are a few Wednesday night games this year, but unfortunately the Monday and Tuesday, it's hard for us both to commit to and jump on. So we thank you all for listening, and if you have any thoughts, comments or questions, don't forget, you can hit us up on Twitter at Breakevens Pod or in the YouTube comments at the Breakevens. So we look forward to hearing from you guys. Until next week, it's bye from now.